Welcome to CasualBCH. In this episode, myself and Vin talk about a bunch of crypto and non-crypto topics while sitting in a truck. So we're trying a new setup since recording podcasts requires time that we don't really have.
We do right now.
Right now, yeah. And kids makes it difficult, so.
So we are currently sitting in our truck with a 2-year-old.
For an hour, till we gotta go pick up the other one. And we're just gonna talk about stuff, because we always talk about stuff in the vehicle. So why not record it for once? So Sahid released something, at least in a preview state for devs, which was his Twitter clone.
Yes.
Yes. So we actually knew about this before as well. And I don't know, I kind of really like the idea of it, just because it's another social platform that potentially could have some very heavy crypto integration.
So why? What makes this a potential better option?
Honestly, I think any social setup, any social app is going to have major issues if it's centralized. I think the major problem with all these Twitters, etc., is the fact that there is a moderator in power at some level.
But is that a bad thing?
Yes. Like at the end of the day, if there's people that can control what is and isn't seen,
Yes.
it causes drama in people. So just as an example, there's been lots of people against Twitter and YouTube and stuff for the last year, whatever. So lots of other things have popped up, Nostr, Mastodon. When Mastodon was one of the things to look at, I looked at it. I made an account. I basically copied my Twitter profile. So I took the Bitcoin pressure song, which I have pinned on Twitter, and I pinned it on my Mastodon account, and I got banned because they thought it was an ad, and they didn't like crypto. And that's the federated server I joined, so I just kind of lost interest at that point.
Yeah.
I guess the counter argument to if there's no central administration is that
Bot spam galore.
bot spam galore, which there's ways around it potentially, but governments and stuff might hate it because bad stuff would get on it and wouldn't be removable potentially. So, but on the flip side, an example of a system like that would be library, which is maybe a bad example because the SEC just shut them down. But the library blockchain is still running.
Yeah.
And Odyssey is just an app looking at the blockchain, and if there's things that they don't want to include on Odyssey, they don't include it. But it's still on the blockchain, so you could still see it, you just have to use a different app. So I have no idea how Sahid's going to do this long term. I'm assuming it's centralized. I'm assuming he's running the servers for it.
Yeah.
And there's going to be moderation and stuff that happen. So in my opinion, it would be better to go longer term, make it so there isn't that moderation in some form.
My biggest concern is you're trying to compete with a big service and take over because you need that adoption and spreading you need to get users to use it and take over from something like Twitter. And a lot of people don't like Twitter now, and especially if it goes paid, they're not going to use it.
Yep.
But how do you get them to use a crypto service, and how do you make a crypto service not just get spammed by bots using it if it's more of a decentralized type and not have the moderation that's deleting those bots constantly?
So,
in theory, you would do something like a small gas fee, a small...
I mean, Sahid is kind of a good example where it's a crypto service. It's going to be a crypto service, but it's just a Twitter clone.
I know.
Like anybody would look at it and be like, hey, it's Twitter.
But that's my point, is there's no value in just another Twitter. It needs to be something better.
Right, but it starts as that.
Yes.
And so when people see it, they're familiar with it. You're not focusing on the crypto side. You're focusing on the user experience side.
Yeah.
And then you just build things on top of that.
Yes.
So, I mean, Ultra is kind of a good example as well, is where they're building a Steam competitor. And they're focusing on the user experience. So you can use credit cards and stuff on it as well. And they're building up the crypto side, but they're just trying to get users. They're not trying to get crypto users. And then in terms of spam and stuff, I think that's just kind of however you do the algorithm to follow people and do recommendations and stuff like that. And probably, locking coins. It'll have some relation to that as well.
I don't like that.
It's good. There's goods and bads from it.
No. No.
I mean, when you're locking coins to get visibility, at the end of the day, whoever has the most money gets seen.
Yeah, so Google gets seen, and Amazon gets seen. And that's you open your Twitter and you see 15 ads before you get to see anything that the people you care about or want to see actually get seen. Do you know how annoying that would be? I would never use a service like that.
Right, but that's why I think it depends on the algorithm being balanced. So it wouldn't just be locking coins. So this kind of ties into the whole HODL locker thing that Jeremy had on the podcast with the BSV guys.
Yeah.
Which my issue with that is that it's nothing new.
Yeah.
Like there's been other services that have done stuff like that already. It's nothing innovative. Mm-hmm. Maybe they've added some extra features and stuff because I haven't fully looked into it. But just like the basic concept of the more value that's put against it, the more visibility it has is an old concept.
Yeah.
I mean, Odyssey does that by default on all their videos, which I've actually thought maybe I should get a couple dollars to put on videos because I looked at some of them, and the ones that even have like 5 library credits are showing up in certain categories, and these podcasts have none on them, so they're like not even on the page at all.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an example of how an incentive it would be for people to stake because they get the visibility. And so part of it would be, yes, the Apples and the Googles have a shit ton of money. They could stake a bunch of money against their ads, basically, or their content. But also everybody out there would be able to stake as well. But
you're not out competing with multi-million companies, multi-billion companies. You are competing with average people.
Mm-hmm. Which is why there should be another side to the algorithm that isn't just focusing on staking, I think.
So then you're going to have the typical who you follow has a weight, blah, 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 and who you don't follow is only going to have a percentage, and that's going to have the typical you want to be able to see new content, so it's going to show a percentage base on all your content.
Which could start pulling from like the whole 6 degrees of separation thing, so it could start recommending you things from like friends of friends of friends type stuff.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not perfect no matter what you do. But the current situation is that you just trust Twitter or whoever controls their algorithm, which is probably very heavily in the advertiser side.
Yeah.
So just because it's not a perfect system, I don't think means ruling it out, because it still might be better than what we have. It's still potentially better than what we have, even though it does have downsides. Mm-hmm. And that's my issue a little bit with the HODL locker stuff.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing necessarily. My concern is just, how are you going to get people to use it?
You make it a good service. You make it a Twitter clone that works.
Yes.
Add in more features. So Sahid, the whole point of this a little bit is that he wants to incorporate Flipstarter into it. Make it so you can run campaigns from it, etc. Donate.
Yes. You
and
started
who knows
with a
what else he
ramble,
does.
and I didn't know where you were going with it. So I waited for a point, and then you just stared at me like I was supposed to say something. So I'm like, is this the topic? Anyway. Flipstarter.
Sure.
What is Flipstarter?
You start doing somersaults? I don't know.
Okay. Hi, boss.
So we've been trying to game theory Flipstarter on Cashtokens.
Fudge me.
Yeah. Definitely learning more about how it works and stuff. And that's why I benefit that way. We've scrapped like 2 designs so far.
More than 2.
Probably.
Well, we've done like 6. We scrapped 2. We think this will work, and we scrapped 7. We know this sucks, so we don't really want to do it, but in theory it could work. But it sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a bus.
My biggest thing is
Trust, don't, no. Verify, don't trust. Trust, don't.
don't trust, verify. So same thing.
But it's currently trust, don't verify.
Yeah. The way it seems like is that when you create the contract, you're having to trust the web server that's creating the contract for you. Flipstarter at the end of the day is going to be the optimal solution is that the people creating these contracts are just average users, and they're just going to a website, clicking a couple buttons, filling in how much BCH you want, the description, whatever, hitting go, and it creates the contract. And it seems like you have to trust that the web server isn't trying to screw you over by changing those values when it's creating the contract.
Yeah.
And you can verify after the fact, depending on how you do it, but I'd rather just not have that trust there at all. So we've been struggling with that part of it.
For like days.
Yeah. But we're narrowing down. It's just getting more complex now, but...
And I'm brilliant. Put that out there.
It helps a ton having somebody to bounce ideas off of.
And mine is like, well, can't you do in a non-Cody way? Here's my Canadian theory.
So we got this ice rink.
And if you have a player.
Yeah.
So, on a justification, there's this trend on the internet going around.
Not really crypto-y.
Well, it feeds into crypto, which is going to make it so much better.
Okay.
Which is really in a justification in a marriage, why you want crypto to get adopted faster so that cash goes away.
I mean, cash is going away no matter what.
Yeah, but technically, maybe. No?
No guaranteed. Yeah. Everything's going digital. It's just going to be an app on your phone showing a number, and that's what people use.
But then it's going to end up being like, if it's in this wallet, it's free. And if it's in this wallet, it's my main account. If it's on an exchange, it's risky money, so it's free money. So
I mean, cash disappearing kind of blows this out of the water, but continue.
It does. So there's this trend going around called girl math, which is really kind of stupid, but not necessarily stupid. But to sum one of the points up is a lot of women agree that if you have cash, then the cash you have is free money because it's not in your bank account. Therefore,
It's not going to make your bank account go down when you spend it.
You've already spent it because it already came out of your account. So it's already been calculated as an expense. So the money you have as cash is free. Or if you got a refund and now you have cash or whatever, however you got the cash, it's free money. So when you spend it, whatever you bought is free.
Okay.
Can you logically agree with that?
No.
Why not?
Because at the end of the day, you have a specific amount of money, whether it's cash or not cash. It's a lump sum altogether.
Yeah, but if you spend... Because you do this with crypto.
So?
Which is kind of why I wanted to talk about it.
If it's not BCH, it doesn't count.
Well, kind of. If it's BCH, even if it's, if you can... I've done it with BCH too. If you have to spend money out of your bank account,
Okay.
it costs too much money. If you have to spend your BCH, it costs too much money.
Yep.
And we have a very slight amount of Ethereum. But if I can convince you to sell that little bit of Ethereum,
It's not as
it's
painful.
it's no big deal. Yeah. Because I'm like, hey, I want to buy this Path of Exile skin.
Yeah, nothing but the necessities.
Because it's really cool. And you're like, no. And I'm like, but it's really cool. And you're like, no, we don't need to spend any money. And I'm like, but hey, don't be noisy. I'm telling a story. But they accept crypto. So we can spend BCH. If it's on my phone, it's okay. But if we have to bring out the hardware wallet, it's not okay. So there are situations in girl math where if you spend it from a certain situation, it's basically free money.
You're basically just lying to yourself.
So?
So. Okay. I think that sums it up. You're lying to yourself.
What's wrong with that?
If you want to lie to yourself,
I lie to
that's
myself
okay.
every day I'm with you.
Oh, ouch.
You can cut that out. It's okay. That was mean. BCH.games thing.
Yeah.
They came out with a new PvP game, and I think that's what was displaying on their homepage. I don't know. I clicked a link.
BCH.games?
Yeah. On Reddit, they posted. And so I clicked on the link, and I sat there watching. And I don't know if it was their new game or if it was just their homepage game. But it was just a little color wheel where people put money into it. And the more money you put in, the higher chance you have to win. You're buying a lottery ticket. The more lottery tickets you have, the more chances you have to win. So this one guy, Bitcoin 2009, kept winning over and over. So people would slowly put tiny cents to little dust, gas fees type things into the pot. And, it would get $2 to $5 US into it. And then he would throw anywhere from $50 to $115 into it. And then he'd win. Because he'd be the majority of the pot. Over and over and over again. And it's like he's slowly chipping away at making $2 to $5 every 3 minutes. And people are like, stop playing because he's just winning over and over again. This isn't fun. Stop playing. Stop playing. And
So it's like every game he has like a 90-95% chance to win.
or more.
Yeah.
But it's like he's just sitting there doing it over and over. And then he stops for one or two. And then he does it again and again. And then eventually he starts doing like tiny little bets of like 30 cents. And he still wins because he's still bigger than everybody else. But when he stops, other people win. And I'm sure he lost a couple little tiny ones that he was in. But it's just that, like, why would people do it long term? Like,
Well, because the math works out.
sure, but like, where's the fun in deposit, wait. Yay, I lost or won. Deposit, wait.
You've described a lot of casino games.
That's my point. Where's the fun in slot machines? Where is the fun? Like, when you're drunk and the colors are pretty, okay, cool. But that's why they sell booze nonstop, or most are free booze, I guess. But where's the fun? Like, when you're winning, I get the fun. I've gone to the casinos, but I always stick to the blackjack and the poker, like the card games.
We have some sort of choice.
Yeah, and you're thinking and you're planning and...
But don't think too much or it'll kick you out.
Pretty much.
If you start counting cards, you're a cheater.
Yeah.
Yep. It's degenerate gambling, and
I guess-
some people like it.
Yeah, the mindless boop woo, but the line one that you were talking about where you click and you have to just click before it ends.
Before it ends, yeah. Which is
At
random.
least that's more random, but there's a decision.
Mm-hmm.
At least you have to make a choice. That at least has some...
That one you're at least fighting with your greed.
Exactly. There's that risk versus reward choice. Whereas the other one is just you're putting an amount and you're waiting.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like those.
Yeah. But
if you do, that's great.
Yeah.
Waste money and make other people... That's the whole, you give $1, somebody becomes a millionaire.
Yeah. But the entire reason those things exist is because the math works out that the house wins in the end. Like, they have a higher percentage of the returns, and that's the only way they stay in business. Mm-hmm. So the Bitcoin 2009 guy that's whaling in that game, he might lose, and the people, if he throws $50 in and then everybody else puts in like 30 cents, there is a very small chance that one of those people will win and they get a huge payout.
Yeah.
And the whale guy gets wrecked for that.
Mm-hmm.
But if he keeps doing it, he will very likely make more money in the end. So
Yeah.
all of this is garbage, and it should be attached to actual video games. That's my thought. Make it fun.
Yeah.
Make it more fun than just degenerate
if you can do
gambling.
this in a game,
Which is fine, but
do it in a game.
you
where
could. You could do like
not just on a website, not just you go to a website to do this. Like, that's...
So you attach it to Ashron's Call, where you're hunting
Oh my
dungeons,
God,
and you
shove
get
it. Enough with the game, burn it. Somebody should
No.
destroy the servers.
No.
You and our 4-year-old are playing that again currently, which is cute and great, but play something better.
But how can you be better than best?
That's what I say every time you want to divorce me.
Oh, I see. I wasn't uploading the podcast on YouTube because I was too lazy to encode the audio as a video, because it would take it from 60 megabytes up to 1 gig, and then I'd have to upload it to YouTube. So it's just a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But there are people that use YouTube religiously all the time. Everybody uses it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I guess it kind of makes sense. Whatever. I don't want to use YouTube with all their ad shit, anti-ad blocker stuff, but my ad blocker has been fighting back by itself, so YouTube sometimes works.
My YouTube still works.
I know yours has never stopped working.
It's great.
So I said I was convinced to just do it anyways.
Do you want to know my theory?
Okay.
My conspiracy theory on why YouTube works for me and not for you?
I use a VPN.
No, I was going to say because I religiously browse shorts on YouTube and you don't.
This is true.
So I feed into their market. So they're
Well, actually, I don't know if you do. I mean, it's partially probably, but I saw a quick blurb of a video recently that was saying that the shorts are actually bad for YouTube.
Oh.
Because they're making way less ad revenue on shorts than they would.
I was going to say, do they
videos.
even have ads on? I mean, I
They
watch a
do.
lot of shorts that are ads.
And that's the thing, is they intersperse the ads between the shorts. So it looks like a normal video. But the amount of money they make on it is a lot less. Advertisers don't value it as much, so that it's way less income. So that's part of the reason that YouTube was trying to wring out every penny they can from people by going so hardcore on ad blockers recently is because they need money. They're because the whole trend is shorts.
Yeah.
And so it's like every platform that isn't doing shorts.
So how
is
would
falling
that compare
behind.
to TikTok, I wonder?
Yeah, their whole thing is shorts, right?
Exactly.
Like, I don't use it. I probably should start doing some stuff for it, but they probably have a whole different revenue model. They're probably a lot smaller company-wise, I'm guessing, so they don't need to make as much to be profitable. YouTube is gigantic.
It's true.
I
mean, YouTube's an extension to a gigantic company, though.
They are. And yeah, even if YouTube loses money every year, as long as Google's making money in other places, they might be fine with that.
Yeah.
The whole lost leader thing. But TikTok, I don't know what their limits are on videos, but they're also much shorter videos. So that's going to be less data requirements, maybe. So another reason they don't have to be so gigantic in terms of profit.
That's an interesting thought, actually.
Oh?
So, going down the topic and thought of when the fork happened, people who wanted BCH made the effort to move their BCH into a separate address and split it off.
Yeah.
And then people who wanted BTC and didn't want BCH either sold off the BCH or just didn't care about BCH, but most likely sold the BCH because free money. Those who didn't know about BCH could have either traded their BTC, and there are many things that have done, like they look for the splits so that they can take it when you move your coins and blah blah blah, or the exchanges get control of it.
I think that depends on if replay protection is enabled or not, and I honestly can't remember if BCH had it. I think it did. It forced people to... Yeah, I think it had it, which is part of the reason that BCH basically broke its network effect, because it caused the new addresses and stuff like that. So, yeah. So in that case, the coins, if the BTC person moved them, I believe it would send the coins, but the BCH ones would still be on the old address.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in the other forks, like BSV and eCash, I think, I can't remember if they both did or not. I think it was the other way. It might have just been BSV. But in that case, it would have sent both sides if somebody saw it.
Assume a very small percentage of people who had Bitcoin wanted to keep their BCH.
Okay.
So assume a large percentage did.
Wanted to keep their BCH?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they're like, whatever. Because, people who sold off, whatever.
Yeah. Long run, the safer option is to keep both, because you don't really know what side's going to win in the long term. So.
Yeah, and it's like, unless you had a very large amount of BTC or Bitcoin, when it forked, you wouldn't have made a huge amount of money, potentially. That why not wait to see which one long-term hold kind of thing, time hands. But it would be interesting to know, like, for actual numbers to come out, it would be interesting to know what percentage of Bitcoins actually split from the original.
Yeah, you can find that information out. I think I was actually looking at a UTXO article, which went over Bitcoin, BCH, so BTC, BCH, and Litecoin, I think. And that was one of the things that came up was how much forked, essentially, or split itself during the forks. And that's where I think I got the percentages. The thing that gets me about maxis, and this is like the Twitter maxis, is they just be. They appear.
They just be.
They just be.
They just be.
They just be. They appear to be blind, and they choose to just ignore certain things. And this is where it's like, do I do this? Do BCH people do this?
Yes.
And I don't. Like, what though? Oh, where do we do it?
Okay.
Say it.
Continue at what your example is.
Okay, so I think I've seen this guy before.
Okay.
And I think he's the one that replied at one point or whatever, or he did a tweet that had like a graph showing how long it takes to finalize a transaction. And this was based off miner hash rate. And so his graph was saying that BTC finalizes in 10 minutes because block time. And then, BCH finalizes in 6 days because that's how long it takes the BCH network to get to the same hash rate as what Bitcoin does,
Okay.
BTC, and yeah, so hash rate equivalent for the miners. And then Litecoin was, however many days, which is weird to even try to do because like they're on a different algorithm, different mining speeds, like it's not equivalent. But so that was his argument, and then it's like he chooses to ignore the fact that like miners could switch at any moment, and like BCH technically has checkpoints,
Yeah.
which kind of throws a loop into that. So I think that was like a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
So today he is again replying. I'll just read his tweet. It's so cute watching you guys daydreaming while your chain settles an average 100 transactions per block that have a finality of nearly 6 days. Putting price aside, you're cheering for a ghost chain. So it's like there's a little discussion that went on about how the hashing doesn't make sense. And a week later, he's again saying that finality is 6 days. It's just like there's a blinder on and he just refuses to like accept facts. And it seems like maxis do this a lot. So what's your, it goes on much more, but so what's your thought?
Yeah, so this is where it's the doubling down.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't seen Bitcoin cashers.
B cashers.
Be cashers?
Yeah.
So I haven't seen B cashers do any double down. I've been presented with an argument that proves your facts wrong and then continue to spout those wrong facts the way Bitcoiners do. But I think that's just them continually not wanting to alter their reality.
Yes.
Because if they start bending that reality, then they're going to have to realize that there's faults to the narrative that they've been preaching.
And which you're seeing with some BTC people that have quite a big following.
Exactly.
So.
And once you start letting those cracks happen, they will start spreading really fast. And I think it's that same thing where once you start poking holes into balloons, the air all flows out really fast, so you can't let any holes in many different types of topics.
Which is why I think it's the whataboutism is a big thing too, because it's like rather than have an actual debate and try to counter points that are made that are flaws in your system or in what you support, you kind of brush it off and then you say, well, what about the price of BCH? Obviously the market's decided. What about the hash rate? What about like you divert attention to like what you consider to be a criticism of the other thing rather than actually having an honest debate about the thing that is being brought up about your, in this case, your chain. Yeah. So this guy specifically started going on later, criticizing BCH. One part of a quote from a tweet is, wasn't your project going to onboard 1 billion people in 5 years? You haven't onboarded even 1 million people on a daily basis, and it's been 6 years. And further on, he kind of goes on that as well, basically saying that BCH has like abandoned being cash for the everyday person because we've sacrificed decentralization because we're not decentralized anymore. Is kind of what his whole argument boils down to. So somebody else jumps in later and says, this argument has been made 1,000 times, but I'll go ahead and repeat what every technical person knows. Node operating costs must be kept low to keep Bitcoin decentralized. That's why there must be a robust block size limit. So this is the basic argument and why the block size wars happened, why BCH even split, like the fork happened in the first place. And it's sad to know that there's such hardcore BTC supporters that are still going down this line of thinking. So I just did a sarcastic reply, just being like, no, if you increase the block size, then my modded 386 toaster will be kicked off the network. The entire world must restrict themselves to my toasty disk storage capacity. Now excuse me while I download a 100 gigabyte game off Steam in 10 minutes and delete it out of boredom. So basically it's the hardware and network has like kept advancing nonstop, and literally downloading a 100 gigabyte game is like
no problem.
I've done it like a couple times in the past like month on different computers. And yeah, and his reply to that was, have you heard of Africa? So this is like the BTC extremist thinking where they jump over to, you need the low node costs the low block sizes so you can keep a small node so that the poorest people on the planet can run a node.
Okay, so is this where I jump in and tell you my thoughts?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. This is where I laugh at Bcashers. They do the exact same thing and the exact same argument towards Bitcoin.
In what way?
Fees can't be high. Have you heard of Africa?
That's true. But on their side, they're saying blocks have to be small so that nodes can be cheap so they can run it so that they can pay $70 per transaction.
Exactly. But that's my point is they want Africa to run a node but not use the network.
Yes.
Why does Africa need to run a node? They can't afford the network for Bitcoin. So does Africa want to run a node for a network that they can't use? Or does Africa want to use a network but not run a node? And trust that, the majority of the population that can afford to run it can run one. But they're going to be able to afford to use the network.
Mm-hmm. See, but this is where
and they can still afford to because it's really not that expensive compared to...
And that's where it falls apart. Because even in this little Twitter thread, Josh brings up that you can run a Raspberry Pi with 1 gigabyte blocks. And a Raspberry Pi isn't expensive.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's going to be more expensive than a bunch of people in Africa can afford all across it. But that doesn't mean that communities won't be able to afford one, or governments or companies there.
Yeah.
Each individual person in a poor village running one? No, probably not. They're also probably not going to run any computer.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't need a strong computer to scale up.
Yeah.
And then you can have a network with cheap fees.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you have extremely cheap nodes and a super expensive network.
Yeah.
So it's like stupidly obvious which one's better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I feel like the blinders come in on them. It's like they've been just repeating the talking points nonstop. And it's very apparent, I think, that it seems like many of these people, especially the vocal ones, didn't get into crypto till like the 2017 bull market. Because it seems like a point of pride for a lot of them. They're like, oh, I've been in since 2017.
Yeah.
And that's generally during and
I
after
mean,
the
a lot of
split,
people
so.
are like, I've been through a bull run. I've been through a crash, and that's a pride point.
Yeah. So it just... propaganda and brainwashing has real impacts.
Yep.
If all you're exposed to is the BTC narrative, then yeah, it's hard for people to challenge it and admit to themselves that they might be in the wrong camp. And regardless of how much we say and, talk against it, it doesn't really matter in the end, because the way BTC is designed, it's going to start falling apart in like 2 more halvings. Maybe 3 if it really wants to kick the can down the road. But
realistically, it's a long time. Like,
I mean, okay, we did our first podcast 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That's half of a halving.
So?
It's a long time, but it's gonna pass.
Sure, but a lot can change in that time.
True, and the only thing BTC is gonna do potentially is probably a tail emission.
I am Bitcoin, I'm not nervous. I'm the tech that changes what society is. I am money, I create freedom, and I'm limited, so I know what my worth is. I don't ask how high the fee is. I don't open, verifiable blockchain. Hashes and transactions, I find in my process. I verify what I'm handed, I trust what's commanded. But under the surface, I feel berserk like a keyboard warrior that's suddenly wordless. Under the surface, was Satoshi ever like yo? I don't wanna fight big banks. Under the surface, I'm pretty sure I'm worthless if I can be of service. A bug or a hack, a line in the stack that breaks the camel's back. What breaks the camel's back? It's growth of the fees that'll never stop. Whoa, users that'll leave till we just go bump. Whoa, give it to BCH, their blocks got bigger, and all we got was the stamp ticker. Who am I if I can't scale with the bull? If I fall to payments that are slow, and they just won't go. Whoa, fees that'll grow till it's ready to blow. Whoa, give it to Satoshi, blockchain is stronger. See the users throw away the dollar. Who am I if I can't verify it at all? If I falter under the surface, I hide my nerves and it worsens. I worry a central chain will hurt us. Under the surface, the miners will leave. They need fees, lighting will kill this. Under the surface, I think about the way Or can we somehow preserve it? Line up maxis, yo, electronic gold blows. Or can try to stop it tumbling, we're on it goes. But wait, if I could scale to support the whole world's transactions, would that free some room up for more developmentation or simple uses? Instead we measure this growing blockchain. Keeps growing, keep going, 'cause all we see is rising of the fees that'll never stop. Whoa, users that'll leave till we just go pop. Whoa, BCH is Bitcoin original purpose. See why it can sustain all the miners' income. Watch as Satoshi's design bends but never breaks. No mistakes, just fees that are low and sustainable. Whoa, blocks that can grow, 'cause we're ready to go. Whoa, come to Bitcoin Cash and never wonder when Blockstream's gonna pull you under. What's the point if not world currency? Low fees, big blocks, no mistakes, no pressure.
Are you the cheapie today?
We got a little cheapy.
We got cheapie? Meow. Meow. Thank you.
It's getting louder and louder.
We're gonna have to send this to Cheapy and be like, this is what happens when we try to do a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
You're not even a cat. You're not even a cat.
What are you doing? Ah!
Okay. Hey.
I see.
Hey. Can you stop?